Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show. Doug Lesmerises and Bill Landis here to preview Ohio State versus Indiana. 1 versus 2, the only 2 remaining undefeated teams in college football will meet in the Big Ten championship game on Saturday night in Indianapolis. We will be there, Bill Landis. We'll be driving over tomorrow on Friday. Over Friday.
That's right. We'll take in some of the conference title games on Friday, and then probably find some place to watch some games on Saturday before going to Lucas Oil Stadium. I don't know what the kickoff is. Technically 8:17, by the way, because Fox. So, but yeah, looking forward to it.
It's all foxed up. So they do that every week anyway. They just normally don't actually say that. But somehow the big noon game starts at 12:17, and they just want you to tune in at noon to get a little bit more of big noon, so the big noon ratings can get jacked up. So it's all, at least they're not lying to us anymore. I didn't look this up. I forgot to look it up. Can you just double check the betting line as I explain what's going on here?
I have it. Yeah, I have it. It's well, I guess it could have changed in the last hour, but I'm assuming it hasn't. Ohio State minus 4.5, and the total is 47.5.
So it's gone down from 5.5. Okay. So it's inching closer. Okay. So this is quite a big deal. We talked about it on the show the other day. This is after the Power 4 conference championship games this weekend. There will have been 108 championship games in Power Conference history. This is the 15th for the Big Ten since they started doing this. This is only the third where it's 1 versus 2. The other 2 were Alabama and Florida in 08 and 09. So this is a big deal. According to the Ohio State game notes, this is the 64th overall 1 versus 2 matchup in college football history, which is kind of a big deal. Ohio State, this is their 8th 1 versus 2 matchup in history. And that does include the Texas opener, but when Ohio State was number 3 in the AP poll, but they were 2 in the coaches poll. So that counts. It was 1 versus 2 in somebody's poll. Do you know all the history of those 7 games so far? This is the 8th 1-2 in Ohio State history.
I don't know the history of all those. No,
it is quite a thing. It is quite a thing. They don't play 1-2 games for the heck of it at Ohio State. Like these are a real deal. So the first one, culminating the Super Softs. One of the greatest seasons in Ohio State history. January 1st, 1969 in the Rose Bowl. Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, USC. A 27-16 victory for the Buckeyes, finishing off that 1968 season again, which is one of the greatest in Ohio State history, right? Next one. National championship game at the Fiesta Bowl, January 3rd, 2003.
They went from 68 to 03 without playing one?
Yeah. Like how would you play it, I guess, right? I mean, I guess you slip in a Michigan game, but for all the stuff, like the 10-year war and all that kicks off in 69, the next year, their top 5 matchups, their top 10 matchups all the time, they just were never 1 versus 2. And I don't even know back then if maybe there was something with AP pollsters where they wanted to put the number 1 and 2 teams in the country from the same conference, from the same area, right? There might have been times when maybe justifiably Ohio State and Michigan were the 2 best teams, but they're putting Texas second or Alabama or USC. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's quite a gap. So now we go to the culmination of another one of the greatest seasons in Ohio State history. Ohio State's number 2 this time. They beat number 1 Miami 31-24. I think people have heard of that game. The next set of these, it's the 2006 season when they play more 1 versus 2 games in the 2006 season than they have played in their existence up until that point. 2006 season, number 1 Ohio State at number 2 Texas, 24-7 win for the Buckeyes in September. The end of that regular season, number 1 Ohio State, number 2 Michigan in Ohio Stadium, 42-39 win for Ohio State. National championship game, January 8th, 2007. Number 1, undefeated Ohio State, wire to wire in the polls. Number 2, Florida, 41-14 Florida. So that's 5. The next one is the next year and the same thing. And this is back in the days of like the BCS. If you're playing in the national championship game, it's 1-2 by definition. Right. So that next year, there's chaos at the end of the season. Ohio State thought they weren't going to make the national championship game. They not only made it, they made it as the 1 seed. They're the number 1 team in the country. Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, LSU. 38-24 loss for the Buckeyes. So you have the culmination of 2 of the greatest seasons in Ohio State history. You have these 2 regular season games in 06 that are awesome. Ohio State's 4-0 in 1 versus 2 games. Then they have you had these 2 defining national championship games, Ohio State versus the SEC in back-to-back years in 06 and 07, that define kind of the middle and end of the Tressel era, which is they dominate the Big Ten. They beat Michigan every year, but they go out to the national stage and they can't quite hang. Right. So 0-2 Miami, they could. That's the narrative of that. So that's very important in Ohio State history. And then we don't have another one until this season's opener. So we go from the 2007 season to the 2025 season. Ohio State didn't have one. This one, they're number 2 in the coaches poll. Texas is number 1. They win 14-7. They are 5-2 all time in 1-2 games. So there you have it. And now they're the 8th.
Were you able to look through like the complete history of 1 versus 2 games? Not just at Ohio State.
I asked to be sent that. I have not received it yet. So
okay. I'm just wondering how many times a team has played multiple in one season, because this is now the second time Ohio State's done it. You know?
And if you follow this, if you want to follow 06, and again, like Ohio State fans, they want to follow too hard. You have the early season matchup with Texas. That's 1-2. You have this culminating event against the number 2 team in the country that's also in the Big Ten. In 06, it was the last regular season game against Michigan. This one is the conference championship game against Indiana. And then will Ohio State wind up playing a 1 versus 2 game in the playoff? Could they be in a national championship game as the number 1 or number 2 team against the number 1 or number 2 team? So that would be the case. Yeah. And depending on that, if Ohio State loses, the only way it would be is if it's a rematch. If Ohio State only drops to 2, Indiana's 1, you're playing again in the national championship game. Or Ohio State's number 1, and that is number 2, Indiana, because they didn't move, is number 2, the SEC champ, and then you get that in the national championship game. So anyway, got to lay that out, Bill. This is crazy special.
Yeah. I didn't know. I'm glad you got that rundown of when those games happen, because like if just knowing whatever the total that there have been and the record is one thing, but like the circumstances are another thing. I want to correct the record as well. I can't remember what show I said this on, but I think I said like the loser of this game is going to the Cotton Bowl. It actually looks at the moment like maybe the loser of this game would go to the Orange Bowl. The winner obviously goes to the Rose, because the Big Ten champ will always go to the Rose, but with the possibility of like the ACC champ like not getting in, maybe. Or at least not getting a bye, certainly. And Texas, it's like if Texas Tech wins the Big 12, they'll go to the Cotton Bowl, and the Big 10 loser will go to the Orange Bowl.
Okay. Make your travel plans accordingly. Not as exciting, the Ohio State-Indiana rivalry history. Ohio State 80, 12, and 5 all time versus Indiana. Winspedia is a great site. I like it. You can search by winning percentage. So Ohio State has a bunch of teams that they're undefeated against. So their best winning percentages are we're 10-0 against this team. We covered that with Rutgers on that preview show, or 4-0 against this team, whatever. But among the teams that they've played more than like 20 times that they're not undefeated against, the teams they have the best winning percentage against are Minnesota. They've won 87.3% of their games against Minnesota, and Indiana, they've won 85.1% of their games. They've won 30 in a row against Indiana, back to a tie in 1990. The last time the Hoosiers actually won was 1988. Isn't that wild?
Yes, because that's the year I was born.
Yeah. So like this is one of those, it's one of those where that's the Indiana, right? Until Curt Cignetti got there, it's like, hey, have you heard Ohio State hasn't lost to Indiana since 1988? And people would have been like, yeah, I can't believe they lost in 1988. How is this not a 70-year winning streak? What are you talking about? It's only into the 80s? That was Bill Mallory taking care of new John Cooper in that one. Welcome to the Big Ten Coop. Here's Bill Mallory.
Poor Coop.
Cradle of Coaches. Here's Bill Mallory. Boom. You like that? You like some of this Bill Mallory right here for you? Boom. Bill Mallory. And since then, nothing. And that's Indiana. They were the losingest program in college football until Curt Cignetti went 400-0 in the last 2 seasons, and now Northwestern is. So this is where Indiana is. I think this count is right. The all Big Ten teams came out the last 2 days, squeezed in between everything else going on in college football, because why would the Big Ten wait and release them next week when there's nothing going on and you could give proper accolades to the fine players in the Big Ten? Why not squeeze them in to make content so that the Big Ten network can get slightly higher ratings against soap operas on a Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon, or a Wednesday and Thursday afternoon, excuse me. Listen, the Big Ten Network, we're not going to let Days of Our Lives dominate us anymore. We're putting out the All Big Ten team. Take that, Days of Our Lives. Is Days of Our Lives still on? You ever watch soap operas?
I'm sure that no, not really, but I'm aware of their existence. I think it might be still on. Do you think perhaps the Big Ten would have moved the awards to next week had they had more coach firings to be covering? But they didn't have that many.
Oh, that's tough because the SEC network is just coach. SEC network's ratings are through the roof.
Yeah.
Now, their conference is in disarray, but Lane Kiffin, good for ratings. Do you think the head of the Big Ten network sitting around going, like, God, I wish we had Lane Kiffin?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Why can't we be in disarray?
Get Rick Pizzo out there on a tarmac. Yeah.
Why are our teams so good? It's terrible for ratings. What if we put out the All Big Ten team? I think this is right. First, second, and third All Big Ten. I think Ohio State had 18 people and Indiana had 17, which is basically if you start for Indiana and Ohio State, you're one of the 3 best players in the conference at your position.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. And I would imagine maybe so I'm just trying to think of both teams. Probably not a ton of first team offensive linemen, but otherwise first teamers kind of all over the place.
Yeah. Carter Smith, Indiana left tackle.
Carter Smith.
First team.
He's very good. Yeah.
Tigger Sherbola, third team for Ohio State, a guy that we've had questions about all year, third team. I think for Ohio State, the only 3 positions that did not make first, second, or third team All Big Ten is the second defensive tackle position next to Cade McDonald, which is kind of a rotation.
Yep.
Slot corner. And slot receiver.
Yeah.
That's it. Everybody else made it. So that's how good these teams are, Bill. Do you think they're both good?
They are both good. I have some other stuff for you. So you can actually on Pro Football Focus rank the teams by overall grade. Indiana is first, number 2 on offense, number 2 on defense. Ohio State is second, number 1 on offense, number 4 on defense. By SP Plus, Bill Connolly's metric at ESPN, Ohio State number 1 overall, number 5 on offense, number 1 on defense. Indiana number 2 overall, number 3 on offense, number 2 on defense. And then EPA per play, according to CFBgraphs.com, Ohio State, number 1 overall, number 4 on offense, number 2 on defense. Indiana, number 2 overall, number 1 on offense, number 4 on defense. Yeah, they're good.
Let me throw in my guy, Brian Fremeau. FEI ratings. Indiana 1, 5th on offense, 3rd on defense. Ohio State 2, 9th on offense, 1st on defense. So,
yeah.
Oregon 3, Notre Dame 4. Long live the North. That's where this stands. We've covered the fact that we think they care. We think they're both going to play pretty hard. We've covered the fact that the winner is clearly the 1 seed and headed to the Rose Bowl after their first round bye. The loser is either going to be the 2 or the 3 seed. And there were some questions asked about, do you think you both deserve first round buys this week? That's not even a question. You couldn't find 4 teams if you're not putting in the loser of this game in a bye.
No, yeah, that's locked in. And I don't even think falling to 4 for the loser is really a possibility.
No.
I think you're right that the floor is number 3.
Yeah. So the floor is number 3. So the loser will be 2 or 3. So we'd certainly.
And they might not move. They might not move.
And they might not move. They might not move, depending how it goes. And especially like Ohio State. I don't know if Ohio State would drop to 3, right? Because that would still be a drop.
That's actually,
Ohio State drops to 2.
That's true. Yeah, I think. Actually, I don't know, because I think that's right about Ohio State, and Indiana's resume is still very good, even if it takes this loss, right? So I don't. Maybe they're 1-2 no matter what.
And if Bama wins the SEC, I think they're 1-2. So I think the only team that could be 2 is SEC champion Georgia with 1 loss. That is avenging its only loss to Alabama. And they do like conference championships. They reward conference champions more than non-champions. So I do think if Georgia's the SEC champ with 1 loss, avenging its only loss, they're probably the 2. Even if Ohio State loses, they're probably the 2.
Yeah,
because then you get into a head-to-head a little bit. Like Georgia beat Texas more convincingly than Ohio State did. Like just get into a little bit of stuff. So I think Georgia probably is the 2 seed as the SEC champ.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about football. We're going to break it down on both sides of the ball. Just a reminder: just a reminder, because it's just a fire hose week. We couldn't be happier, but it's a crazy week. Like, we're just trying to keep up. So we're talking. Who'd you talk to this morning? Just tell the folks to make sure they don't miss that show or the YouTube podcast feed.
Taylor Lehman, who I didn't know this, by the way, is like, he covers Indiana for Bite Size Bison on Substack, and like until Sunday, and then it's done. So he just got like a real job, and he's shutting it down. But he knows Indiana football inside and out. So I talked to him this morning to get, because we're just going to spitball here. Like, we watched Indiana, we're going to give our opinions, but Taylor's an expert on Indiana, so we wanted to get his input as well before we did this. So that is up in the feed already.
And I talked to Tyler Shoemaker earlier in the week on that went up Tuesday morning, and we talked about sort of like his power ratings and how Indiana and Ohio State stack up against each other, how they stack up to other teams in the country. So we know a lot of you guys like T. Shoe. That was a busy day. If for some reason that one got past you, make sure you go back in the feed and find the Tyler Shoemaker interview. We also would invite you to join us on Substack. We've got a lot of people coming in, Bill, and I don't want to brag. We don't want to brag, but I think we are now the #1 college football Substack that covers a specific team, because we just moved past somebody. No offense to that person, but we got you.
We did. We are #1.
We are #1. Yeah, and we're #1 because of the people out there, the people who subscribe to our Substack. So. We know a lot of you who subscribe are watching and listening right now, and we're eternally grateful for that. It's been continuing to add more people there. If you want to join us over there, BillAndDougOSU.substack.com. BillAndDougOSU.substack.com. And a final thing, our friends at Roback, BAD20 is the code. It'll get you 20% off your first order at Roback. Holiday season's here. Go to the game day collection. Cool, casual, classy. That's what Roback does with your favorite team gear. It's RHOBACK.com. A lot going on. For the Ohio State-Michigan breakdown that we did last week, I went first. Now, we kept the same sides of the ball because in a busy week, it was like last week I hope we did this right. I had Ohio State defense and Michigan offense, so I kept doing Ohio State defense and Indiana offense. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
We will. I don't know if we've done it yet, but there will be a day when we get to the big game breakdown, and we will not break down both sides of the ball. We will just break down the same side of the ball twice. It did not happen.
You won't get a more thorough breakdown of one side of the ball when that day comes.
Other side of the ball, good luck, everybody. That did not happen today. I went first last week. Why don't you go first this week? Which means that you would start with Ohio State offense versus Indiana defense. Philly Billy, what you got?
Sure. I like to give the lay of the land sort of statistically before we dive into anything specific. Indiana scoring defense, #2 in the country, 10.9 points per game. They've allowed 12 touchdowns in 12 games. Ohio State scoring offense, #13 in the country, 37 points per game. But I did note, and I wanted to mention this, because there's this notion of Ohio, not a notion, it's a fact. Ohio State, the last 2 years, has just sort of played it a little differently during the regular season, so their scoring average is down a little bit. If you look at last year, in December, December and January, they averaged more than a touchdown more per game than they did in October, November. So their scoring did go up, and I would anticipate it going up a little bit this year too. Now that we're sort of in the postseason, but for right now, it's 37 points per game, 14th in the country. Yards per play, Ohio State's 14th in the country, 6.9. Indiana's defense 8th, 4.5. Third down, Ohio State is first on offense, and Indiana is 4th on defense. Red zone touchdown percentage, Ohio State is 30th. They did dip back below 70%. They're at 69.4%. Indiana's defense is first, 27.8% red zone touchdown percentage.
Best goal line defense, best red zone defense.
Best red zone
defense in the country.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
A lot of defensive metrics, it's Indiana or Ohio State are first or second. Yeah. But yes. Indiana is first here. So that's sort of the lay of the land. I guess I will start with I think you have to start with Indiana's defensive line. And I said this to Taylor on the show that we did earlier on Thursday morning. And I said, you watch Indiana's defensive line, and they do look undersized. I was watching them against Oregon. Oregon's got a big burly offensive line. Penn State's got a big burly offensive line. They look like they're at a significant size disadvantage. And if you just take the top 6 guys that play, which is kind of only 2 guys on the edge, Mikal Kamara, excellent player, Stephen Daly, transfer from Kent State, And then they kind of roll 4 guys through a defensive tackle: Tyreek Tucker, who was on the team last year, Mario Landino, who's a true sophomore, and then a couple of transfers: Hosea Wheeler from Western Kentucky and Dominique Ratcliffe from Texas State. All 6 of those guys combined, they only average 285 pounds, which is like probably low on like for Big Ten for Power 4 defensive line. But it doesn't matter because they really get after you. Run and pass, they're a hard group to deal with, and watch, like, you know, I sort of like watched the Oregon game like kind of out of the corner of my eye when it happened live earlier this season, and then going back and watching it closer, like that offensive line to me is top 5 in the country, and they just really could not do a whole lot against Indiana's defensive front. It was something else. Yeah, it was something else to see how Indiana controlled the line of scrimmage in that game. Like I would say better in like pass rush situations than maybe they were against the run. If you look at that game, like Oregon's run efficiency, I think they might have averaged fewer than 3 yards per carry, but there were a lot of sacks in there. If you take the sacks out, Oregon's running backs did average like just over 5 yards per carry, which is pretty efficient. But there wasn't a lot of like very little, in fact, of like Indiana getting blown off the ball, and like in passing situations, they just kind of tore Oregon apart. Oregon really didn't have any answer to try to block them, and Dante Moore ended up getting sacked a lot. They have a bunch of guys like in their front 7 who can get after the quarterback. If you include linebacker Elijah Hardy, they have 5 guys with 20 pressures. Like compared to Ohio State only has 3. Okay. And Mikal Kamara, this is very puzzling to me. It reminds me a little bit of his name is escaping me. Is it Shamar Stewart, the guy from Texas A&M that the Bengals just drafted? Is that who? Yeah. Yes. Who had like 1 billion pressures and no sacks. Mikal Kamara has 46 pressures, which is tied for 15th in the FBS and 1st in the Big Ten, and he has 1 sack. I don't know why. I don't know why that's the case. It's very strange. I
mean, but sometimes your reputation can precede you, and they're like, "I'm getting rid of the ball before that guy gets to me." Sure,
I think that could be it. They end up dropping him out a decent amount to like sort of like a surprising amount. He's an interesting player. He's 6'1", 262, and he's a defensive end. He's like more built like a fullback, and he's playing defensive end, but he's very good. Elijah Hardy, the linebacker, leads the team in sacks. He has 7, but he only has 20 pressures, so he has half the pressures of Kamara and 6 more sacks.
Daly has surprised.
Yeah, Daly has 35 pressures. Landino, I really like Mario Landino. He's a true sophomore defensive tackle who was a commit to JMU and then flipped to Indiana last year when the staff got hired. He looks like he's going to be a really good player. He has 28 pressures from the interior. Tyreek Tucker has 22 pressures from the interior. And they don't blitz a ton. Like they don't send more than 5 a ton. I guess is probably the better way to say it. But they're really good at sort of attacking offensive lines in a way that just creates one-on-ones and isolates. They're actually quite good at like isolating running backs in pass protection, but also they'll just kind of like isolate your worst pass protector, and they're just super strategic about how they go about it. Like to a man, I don't know that there's anybody who's like, you know, overwhelming as an individual player. And frankly, I don't even know how many guys on Indiana's defense are going to be NFL players because a lot of them are kind of undersized. But they're really well coached and play incredibly well within the scheme, and I think that shows up most along Indiana's defensive line. And
you like Brian Haynes. You love Brian.
Yeah, Haynes. Brian Haynes is one. He's funny. Do you ever follow him on Twitter? The Indiana defensive coordinator. Somebody. No. He always like claps back at fans in a way that I find really entertaining. And somebody earlier this week,
Indiana fans who are complaining about things. They're 23-1 in the regular season last 2 years.
It wasn't even a complaint. Like somebody tweeted at him and said like, "Got to stop the run this week, coach." And he replied and he said like, "Oh, do you think it's important to cover number 4 and number 17 too?" Which like I appreciated him taking time out of his Ohio State prep to say that to an Indiana fan. But he's really good. He's from Ohio, like West Central Ohio, I think. Was a GA at Ohio State in 2013 on Urban Meyer's staff, and then has sort of been with Curt Cignetti ever since then and been his defensive coordinator. for a really long time. And they're the two best defenses, so maybe it's easy to say, but like he and Matt Patricia may be the two best defensive coordinators in college football right now. And it's a scheme that is like it. They want to generate a lot of havoc. Curt Cignetti said this the other day. Havoc is sort of how they want to go about their business, but they're not like hyper aggressive in achieving that. Like it's not like Manny Diaz sending 10 guys to the ball or Jim Knowles blitzing out of his mind. Like they're just really creative about how they generate pressure. And I think it's going to put a lot of stress on Ohio State's offensive line in this game. Handling all these twists and stunts up front, they're going to see a ton of it. And like simulated pressures where there'll be 6 guys up on the line and 2 of the linemen drop out and the linebacker rushes. And it's still a 4-man rush, but it just feels like something more than that. And I think it's good for Ohio State's offensive line that it's coming off a game against Michigan where it obviously pass blocked incredibly well because it didn't allow a pressure. But the little bit that Michigan did throw some similar stuff at Ohio State, they handled it really well. They're going to see a lot more of it against Indiana. But I don't know. Ryan Day said it. He thought this was the best offensive line game. I certainly thought it was the best offensive line game that Ohio State's coming off of. But this is probably going to be their biggest challenge, right? Of course it is. They're playing the second best defense in the country besides their own. But particularly with the stuff that Indiana does up front, I think it is going to present some issues for Ohio State. Like I part of me wonders if Ohio State might see a dip in its efficiency in this game. And perhaps but maybe the trade-off is they can find ways to be more explosive. But I do think just like down to down, it's a pretty hard defense to move the ball against because of how just like creative and sort of tricky the defensive line can be for Indiana.
How do you think people reacted when Bryant Haynes as a GA at Ohio State after 2013 was like, I'm leaving, I got a job. And they're like, oh, cool. Where did you get a job? He's like, I got a job at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. I'm like, you're leaving Ohio State to do that? He's like, yeah, I'm going to be the defensive line coach and do a little bit of strength and conditioning stuff. I'm sure Urban was like, good luck. You're leaving Ohio State for that. And the head coach of IUP was Curt Cignetti, and he's been with them ever since. 4 different places. Remarkable.
Maybe he thought it was the Indiana Hoosiers. It was a Big Ten job.
Yeah, for real. That would be a great question to ask. If we get a chance to ask Brian Haynes a question, did you mistakenly take a job with Curt Cignetti the first time around, and now coincidentally you're back at Indiana? Best game by the offensive line. A lot of confidence on the Ohio State offensive line right now. Philip Daniels was expressing that like when we talked to him on Wednesday night. It's sort of nice to see a group come together, right? But the thing that I think you've been very good on this year, of course you're good on everything on the offensive line, is them handling different looks, them handling stunts, them picking up things, and you've created a scenario here where you expect Indiana to kind of throw some stuff at them. Do you think they're in a good spot there? Because they got physical on the 20-play drive and took up 12 minutes and ran the ball down Michigan's throat. But if they want to throw the ball, can they handle the looks that Brian Haynes is going to throw at them?
I think they can sort of like for the full length of the game. Like I think they'll handle it well enough. But I guess I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we see the pressure rate go up a little bit in this game. Like for Julian saying, if he's perhaps under duress a little more. The good thing for Ohio State, I would say, is like it wasn't something that's like suddenly showed up against Michigan. Their ability to handle like that movement up front, because they did it against Rutgers too. If you think back to like the Wisconsin game, like that defensive line was moving all over the place, and Ohio State really didn't seem like it had any idea of what it was supposed to do up front. And then it just sort of like kept working on it. And then the next team to kind of throw a lot of stuff at it in that area was Rutgers, and they handled it pretty well. Now, Indiana's players are much better than Rutgers, and Indiana's defensive line, while not as deep, is better than Michigan's. So it's a stiffer challenge in that way. But yeah, I think if you just look at some of the stuff like technically that Ohio State was doing on the offensive line, which like it may sound so simple, but like they're playing with their eyes up, which is great, because too many times like in the midseason, they would just like be in their pass sets with their eyes down, and then here comes the guy looping around and no one sees them. So they've just been a lot better at that. I think everybody knows, right? Like the hope anyway is that the offensive line continues to gel over the course of the season, and these guys have gotten a lot of reps together, and there's been less rotation on the right side the last couple of games too. So I think that probably helps Tegra Shabola and Philip Daniels, who are sort of like the most egregious offenders mid-season at handling that stuff, be better at it now. So I'll be interested to see like what side of the line Indiana chooses to like stress test more. I'm sure it'll still be the right side. I think in addition to the O-line, there's going to be some moments where the running backs have to step up in pass protection. Bo Jackson had a really nice pickup on the third down to Brandon Inniss against Michigan on the drive where Inniss scored. Like there was kind of a free runner coming and Bo Jackson picked him up. I think CJ Donaldson increasingly has been more reliable there. So I think it's probably going to be another game where Jackson and Donaldson play the most at running back because of that. But, like pass protection has not been a huge issue for Ohio State this year. They're 12th in the PFF pass blocking efficiency metric. And if you look like sacks allowed per game or even tackles for loss allowed per game, Ohio State is among the best in the country. So I don't think it's like a mismatch or anything like that. It's just a challenge.
Okay.
Like they're very good and schematically they'll throw a lot at you. Excuse me. There was a play in the Oregon game in the fourth quarter when the game is like into balance and Indiana's trying to get Oregon off the field, and they ran a play where they put, I think it was 7 guys up on the line, and then 3 of them dropped out. A different guy who wasn't up on the line rushed from depth, and then they also with that ran a twist in the middle with their 2 defensive tackles, and the result was one of those defensive tackles was just like basically unblocked and just ran right up the middle, batted a Dante Moore pass up in the air and was intercepted and the game was over. So like that's the kind of stuff that they're going to throw at Ohio State, I think. And it's just you have to prepare for a lot. And it's not like Ohio State has extra time to get ready for Indiana. The one actually, like kind of a side note, I don't think Ohio State was thinking about Indiana at all prior to Michigan because they had to beat Michigan. But I bet Indiana was preparing for Ohio State during its bye week before it played Purdue.
I bet you're right. They
Which,
probably
like, I don't know,
prepared more during Purdue week.
Yeah, I don't know how that might show up, but I do think Indiana took that approach.
That's a really interesting point because it's just so odd to me to have your bye week. So it was a year of 2 bye weeks. Everybody knows that. And Indiana's second bye was in week 13. And then it's like, well, you only have 1 game left. Why do you need a bye here? And so you have to survive that big chunk of the season where everybody else is getting their second off week and you didn't. But actually, if you are a team good enough to advance to your conference championship game or the postseason, man, that late bye could be quite a little thing. Look at you finding a little thing. I did not think about that at all. I just was watching during the course of the year these teams with late bye weeks and thinking it's weird, but it actually could be quite a little edge for a game like this. Interesting.
Yeah, and Kurt Signetti, I can't remember if he was asked about it specifically. I think he was sort of asked just like generally, like how much have you watched Ohio State this year? And he did like sort of allude to watching them. He said like we watched them a little bit during the bye week, and in my head I was like, you watched them a lot of it during the bye week. You maybe watch them exclusively during the bye week. So I don't think it's going to be like a huge advantage because both these teams have played 12 games and for the most part the book is out on everybody. But Indiana like unquestionably got a head start on preparing for Ohio State. Yeah, compared to Ohio State's prep.
Can I just remind the folks also, Whatcha at the end of this show? That is the plan. We did not get to it on our Wednesday show for Substack subscribers because as we were doing that Wednesday show, the Brian Hartline news broke. And so we had to choose between Hulu and hot dogs or Heartline. And you made us talk about football. So now we have to talk about streaming shows and snacks at the end of the show.
Apologies. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes, all right. Can Indiana cover Ohio State? Can Indiana cover, like the Ohio State receivers are playing? Yes, Bill Landis. The information we got on Wednesday night was yes.
Fully expect. Yeah, well, yes, the information we got was yes. But the other thing, too, was like for the last month when we would go to the Woody on a Wednesday night, they were always very careful to make sure the receivers weren't on the field once we got in there. And they were on the field this Wednesday when we went in there. So they're not trying to hide anything. Looked like Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith were practicing, and they should be full go. I think I would be surprised if they don't play. Perhaps snap count limited because it did even in the Michigan game felt like they were a little snap count limited.
You know what? It felt like that, and they both played double the number of snaps that Brandon Inniss did. So like I was thinking that at the time also, but I think it was actually just like a little bit of like some more 12 and 13 personnel. I think there were times when maybe one of them was on the field, but not both. But
that was more of the thing that I noticed, is that they weren't always out there together.
Yes. But it's almost like an NBA team at this point. It's like, well, if you have two superstars, we really want to make sure that at least one of them is out there on the floor, out there on the field as much as possible. And I think you did feel that a little bit. So they weren't up near 100% of snaps, but it felt lower to me during the game than what the numbers actually showed on PFF.
Yeah. So the starters, the 73 snaps. Jeremiah Smith played 45 and Carnell Tate played 42. So they
right.
In an ideal world, they're probably playing all 73 with Julian Sain. They didn't quite do that.
But part of it was right. But if you look at like the backup receiver snaps, I think like David Adolph had 13 and Bryson Rogers had 10. And like we said, Brandon Ennis played in the 20s. But I think some portion of that was there was just a decent number of times where there weren't that many receivers on the field in general, which is a great way to rest them. I would be curious to go back and look on that 20-play drive. How often were Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate on the field on that drive?
I don't know. There was a lot of 13 personnel. Like Jeremiah Smith's touchdown on 4th and 5 was actually, I didn't realize it in the moment, like going back and looking at it, 13 personnel. He was the only receiver on the field. And Michigan got big to match it, and then it was like, well, Jeremiah's 1-on-1. I guess we'll throw the ball to him. Like that. I mean, we've talked about it all year. That's the benefit of Ohio State playing these multi-personnel or multi-tight end packages, which actually could be interesting in this game because Indiana seems to prefer playing with 3 linebackers. I think like during the broadcast of one of the games I was watching, they noted that like Indiana thinks their best 11 is when they have a third linebacker on the field, who would be Isaiah Jones. Their 2 main linebackers are Aiden Fisher, great player, one of the best linebackers in the country, JMU guy, and Elijah Hardy, who was actually already at Indiana when the staff arrived, and they just kind of like developed him into a very good player. And then Isaiah Jones is the third one. So I don't think like Ohio State playing in 12 personnel as much as it does, I don't think will force Indiana into doing something personnel-wise it doesn't want to do. But it's really kind of weird to look at Indiana's defensive profile when teams are throwing the ball because the 2 most targeted players are linebackers.
How is that?
Hardy. Like it's weird, right? I don't know. Well, they're a really good defense. They don't face a lot of passing volume.
Checkdowns. They're just throwing to tight ends and running backs.
Yeah, it seems to be the case. Like the most targeted player is Hardy, linebacker, 43 targets, and he's not good in coverage because he's a linebacker. And then Jones, who again is like their third linebacker, has been targeted 40 times and also not very good. Also not very good in coverage. So, like before we talk about the receivers and the DBs, like I do think this could be perhaps an opportunity for Max Clare, like in the middle of the field behind the linebackers. Saw Bo Jackson have was a 49 receiving yards last week against Michigan, and he's a pretty solid receiver out of the backfield. I think you could see him have another nice day catching the ball too. And then like in the secondary, D'Angelo Ponce is a freak. Like he has no business being as good as he is at 5'9", but he's an excellent cornerback. I went back and looked last year's game. Ponce, who played at the same high school as Jeremiah Smith down in South Florida, was targeted 7 times last year against Ohio State. He gave up 3 catches. And against Jeremiah Smith specifically, according to PFF, he was targeted 3 times and gave up 1 catch. Like, I'm not saying Ponce is going to shut down whichever guy he's matched up against, but I'm just saying like he's up for it. He's very much up to the task and like relishes the opportunity to play against guys like Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. I just don't know that Indiana has the guys to cover both of them. and welcome
to the party.
Yeah,
that's the case for a lot of people.
Taylor, when I spoke to him, kind of alluded to this too. Indiana's second corner, Jamari Sharp, I think is a good player, but if you watch Indiana over the stretch of a couple of games, like that's the one thing I thought. Obviously, watched Ohio State all year, and like getting more familiar with Indiana now. Statistical profiles, the defenses are very similar. Just two of the best, maybe the 2 best. Well, probably not the 2 best, but like 2 of the 4 best in the country. But Indiana does give up more explosive plays in Ohio State. I don't think they give up a lot of explosive plays, but they get a little leaky sometimes. And in the pass game, that seems to happen basically against everyone other than D'Angelo Pons. You'll see a safety get lost in coverage. They gave a big touchdown to Oregon early in that game. A safety got lost in coverage. They gave up a big completion against Penn State because Jamari Sharp got kind of shaken out of his shoes by Trevor Pena. And there was a couple of big completions for Penn State in that game. So I just few, if any, teams have two cornerbacks who can cover both of Ohio State's excellent receivers, and Indiana is just like another one of those teams. So I do think it could be somewhat tough sledding trying to throw the ball to the D'Angelo Pons side of the field. But I think there could be opportunities elsewhere for Ohio State, whether that is whichever receiver is matched up with the other corner, or to these linebackers, or to these tight ends or running backs against Indiana's linebackers. And the other thing I'm curious about when it comes to Indiana covering Ohio State passing wise is Indiana does not play a lot of like split safety stuff. They play a lot of cover 3, so a lot of single high safety stuff. And I wonder if that might give Ohio State some more opportunities to get behind some people. That's why I think, like I said, there are reasons to think that maybe the efficiency might dip a little bit for Ohio State's offense, but I do think there's going to be opportunities to be explosive, and I do think Ryan Day might take that trade-off if they can get a couple big scores.
Has it not been the case that a decent number of those Carnell Tate deep shots this year have been against single high safety, where the safety leaned toward Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate winds up one-on-one and it's game over?
Yeah, the one against Michigan last week was two high safeties, but yes, a lot of the very pretty deep ball connections we've seen from Julian Sain and Carnell Tate have come when the only safety who's deep is worried about Jeremiah Smith.
So I asked Ryan Day sort of about, and he had mentioned this earlier in the week, about like how different is the game planning when you're getting ready to go play indoors instead of getting ready to go play in the snow in Ann Arbor. And he like kind of took that and went into like all the things they were planning to get ready for Michigan last week. And they thought like on Wednesday, okay, it's gonna be second half snow. We have to plan for that. The one thing that you could feel it when we were at practice on Wednesday night afterward, and that it was hot in there. And they said they turned up the heat inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center to practice indoors to get ready for what it's going to be like in Indy. But do you think from a game plan perspective, they are going to go out and let it rip? And he said it'll be fast track, clean game. Full hearts can't lose was the full out part of that quote. He just said the fast track, clean game, but like fast track, clean game, that's when it's go time for the Ohio State passing game. Are you anticipating Ohio State throwing the ball all over the yard?
Yeah, I think they'll try to. I guess the other thing I think it'll probably be harder to run the ball against Indiana than it was against Michigan. The run game looked great last week, and that was awesome because they needed it. But the weather sort of dictated that they would need that. And then not only was it there and available to them, it was a weapon. Indiana's defense just does not give up a ton on the run game. Their defense in every game but one has given up negative EPA per rush. The only team that like really ran it well against them was Old Dominion in the opener, which is like kind of weird. And Old Dominion, I didn't watch the game because it's Old Dominion. Old Dominion averaged 9.48 yards per carry in that game. I don't know what happened, but everyone else they've played, including Oregon, who's an excellent rushing team, and Iowa that must run the ball to exist, averaged under 4 yards per carry. Sacks are worked into that as well, as I said earlier. But it's just a really good rush defense that really no one has been able to crack all that consistently. And I don't know. Ohio State could be that team. Like maybe this run game is about to take off and we don't realize it. But I very much think, sort of given the strengths and weaknesses of both of these teams and the fact that it's going to be a sterile environment, that Ohio State will try to throw it all over the place. Yeah.
So this will be the third time that Ryan Day, as a head coach, is taking his team indoors to Indianapolis. First Big Ten championship game in 2019. KJ Hill, 9 targets, 7 catches for 83 yards. Chris Olave, 8 targets, 5 catches for 94 yards. Ben Victor, 4 targets, 3 catches for 55 yards. So that was how they used the receivers in that game. kind of like receiver first, right? They
Mm-hmm.
they threw a little bit. 2020 was the weird one where with the COVID stuff, right? They didn't actually have the full complement. Chris Olave was out for that game.
Olave, yeah. I couldn't remember which one it was.
So Garrett Wilson, 9 targets, 4 catches, 49 yards. Julian Fleming, 7 targets, 4 catches, 53 yards. Jamison Williams, 3 targets, no catches. So
Trey Sermon, 9 million rushing yards.
Trey Sermon, yes. And also he caught 3 passes for 4 yards. And also now you're going to make me look. I just want to actually see what it was. I want to see the stats of it. Trey Sermon, 29 attempts, 331 yards, 11.4 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 6.76 yards after contact, 17 missed tackles forced.
It's the greatest individual rushing performance of all time in Ohio State history by Trey Sermon in an empty stadium.
In an empty stadium. Also, I'm looking at this, and sometimes you have to look at the key to figure out what these abbreviations mean on PFF. So I think this is right. KK 3. That's karate kicks. And so anyway, I think they're gonna grip it and rip it, because also you want to, like, you know, it's one of those things. We talked about it last week. 2-play 50-yard drive in 45 seconds, deep ball to Carnell Tate, and then followed it with the next drive is 20 plays, 16 of them runs, takes almost 12 minutes. That's Ohio State at its best, right? That you can do both. But there are times when I think the biggest limiting effect on the Ohio State passing game this year at times has been like not trying it, not wanting to, not needing to, maybe at times not taking what is there. And so I would imagine there's a conversation this week when you're playing a team this good and you need to be explosive, that I'm sure they've talked to Julian saying about, if you see it, let it go. Like, don't, you know, maybe there's a little bit more of a risk factor that you can do. We've talked about it all year, but also they want to and need to. So I think we could see this, as good as Julian Sand is, and he has the best completion percentage on deep shots of anybody in the country. That remains the case. He has the best completion percentage on any throws of anybody in the country. That remains the case. I think they'll lean into it.
I agree with you. Let me ask you this, like, because clearly that's what they're going to want to do in the actual playoff. Yes. So is this, let's sharpen that part of our game because we're not going to play for 3 weeks after this, or is it, let's see if we can't hold some stuff back because we want to save it for the playoff, knowing like you want to win a Big Ten title, obviously you want to remain undefeated, but like the stakes of it don't derail your season.
Sharpen. I'd say sharpen.
Yeah, I say sharpen too.
And if it's one of those, I do think this, if they do to Indiana, and I don't think they will, but if they do to Indiana what they did to Oregon in the first half of the Rose Bowl last year, then I think Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith won't play in the second half.
That's true.
So like get out, let it rip. And if it goes great and it's 28-0, maybe then you shut it down. Right. So like that, which again, I don't think it will be, but I think they got to go out and take shots, because I think they proved them. Certainly the offensive line proved something last week. And I think over the course of the last month, the run game has proven something. And now it's just like, we know we can do this, but let's pull it out, sharpen it up, put it back in the sheath. And then like, we'll be good to go in a month. But especially given that those guys have been hurt, and you know, you want to be smart, but I think you want to take shots.
Yeah, I think they will take shots. Yeah, and I would like to see them take shots to someone like who isn't Carnell Tate, just to like see what it looks like, see if they can't find somebody else to step up there, because he's been by far their most consistent guy down the field, and he's great. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but like if they can get like Max Clare going down the field, because they've had opportunities to do that and not taken them. If they can get him going downfield, I think that would do a lot for their offense moving forward.
Yeah. Okay. You good on your side?
I think I'm good. Yeah.
All right. Like, subscribe, tell a friend about the Bill and Doug Show. If you're here watching on YouTube and you're not subscribed, just get subscribed so you don't miss anything.
Can I give some recruiting news while we're talking?
Give us a thumbs up. Oh, is there still recruiting happening? What is
there? Yeah. While Ohio State is waiting on things to happen, Jaquaden Guilford will sign with Ohio State.
Oh, so one left. I got to go update the tracker on our Substack, Bill and Doug OSU.substack.com. I also wrote a piece about Julian Sayin and Fernando Mendoza in the Heisman race, and tried to look back at the last 11 Heisman races in the playoff era and like how did it really break down? How often did championship weekend really matter? Can I get your opinion like really quick on this?
Mm-hmm.
Because I sort of made a point, and then like in the end, there's a little caveat of like, I think this is going to determine the Heisman winner, Julian Sand versus Fernando Mendoza. But if you look at the odds right now, Diego Pavia is in between them. Mendoza's the favorite. Pavia's right there, and then Sand is slightly behind them. So it's kind of like a 3-man race. And I had said, okay, I really think if it's the winning quarter, I think the losing quarterback can't win. I think if the winning quarterback has kind of a mid game and the defense is the reason that a team wins, then like Pavia's sitting right there.
Yep.
He runs much more than either of these guys. Like his passing stats are similar. Vanderbilt's 10-2. They're a great story. But I feel like Pavia is waiting in the wings if the winning quarterback has an average game. Now, if you look at the history of Heisman winners in this era, like there's a bunch of great games all over the place. And then you win the Heisman, not surprisingly. But 2023, Michael Penix and Bo Nix, Washington and Oregon go at each other in the Pac-12 title game. Michael Penix ends up finishing second. Bo Nix finishes third. Washington beats Oregon in that game. Penix is good in that game. Penix like throws for 300 yards in that game and is good. And Jaden Daniels for LSU, who's sitting home, still wins. And Penix, if Penix had thrown for 500, I think maybe he would have won. Like he was really good in that game. But then it did get me thinking a little bit of like, is there enough of a Southern block that's just like, screw those Northern guys. I'm voting for Diego Pavia. He's the official candidate of the SEC, and everybody in the South's going to vote for him. And that's going to happen because I would say, I don't think Pavia is Daniels. Pavia is not going to be the number 2 pick in the draft. Pavia like has good running stats, but Daniels are ridiculous. Daniels was much closer to Lamar Jackson than what Pavia is. So like in that circumstance, all right, he's a special kind of talent, even though his team went 9-3, we're going to give him the Heisman. And even though this guy balled out in a conference championship game, he's going to finish second. Do you think that like there's a Southern block that could hand this thing to Pavia?
I think there's a Southern block that's going to, have him sort of right in the thick of it. Yes, I do think that's possible. I'm just looking to see. Pavia's got 36 total touchdowns.
And he's run for like 850, and like Singing runs for none, and Fernando Mendoza's run for like 200. Their passing stats are otherwise pretty similar.
Yeah, Daniels had 50 touchdowns that year.
So to me, Diego Pavia is not Jaden Daniels.
Correct. I agree with that. Yes.
I don't think that's offensive to say.
I think that's correct. Yeah. One of those guys is an NFL starter and the other won't be. But I do think it is definitely possible that a Southern voting block gets Pavia there no matter what. Now, like it's Vanderbilt, it's not LSU or Alabama or Georgia or Tennessee or whatever SEC blue blood you'd like to throw out there. And he's a transfer. He's not like a born and bred in the South kind of dude. So like I don't know if that matters. Because I do think I wonder if like among I don't know the right way to
Jaden Daniels was a transfer too. Came from
he was, but I wonder. But he was at LSU. Is there anything like the Southern football aristocracy turning its nose up at Vanderbilt suddenly being an upstart program? And maybe they don't want to put their quarterback there. But no, I think he'll be one on a lot of Southern ballots. I think kind of where I land is perhaps that Mendoza can sort of just be like good and win the game and win the Heisman. Sayin might have to win and like be awesome to win the Heisman, given his current positioning.
Sayin's stats are better. Like they have basically the same number of passing touchdowns. They have the same number of interceptions. They both have 5. Sayin's completion percentage is better. Sayin's thrown for more yards.
Yeah. Well, we know what it is. I'm not saying that's right, but like I looked earlier today because if the knock on Sayin, well, there's 2, right? He plays with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, and he has yet to take a snap while trailing in the second half. But like, it's not like Mendoza has a lot of the guy with the second fewest passing attempts trailing in the second half is Fernando Mendoza.
Oh,
and the only reason he has them is because he threw awful interceptions in the fourth quarter against Oregon, I guess. And Oregon, they didn't trail, but he threw an awful interception against Oregon to tie the game at 20 in the fourth quarter. And he threw an awful interception against Penn State that gave Penn State the ball and a chance to take the lead. It's like, manufacturing your own adversity is ridiculous to me. Like, I don't understand why that is a plus in his camp, and Julian Sain doesn't get any credit for playing better than him over the course of the season.
And he threw an awful interception against Iowa to set up the go-ahead field goal for Iowa. And Iowa, land of punters and kickers, they missed a 42-yard field goal that would have given them the lead.
Yeah.
So, so we'll get into him now. But I just like so if you want to, I did all the research of the 11 years, like how often was the Heisman locked up? How often did it come down to championship weekend? There's one, I think, kind of pretty direct comparison to this kind of thing. It doesn't happen often that maybe the Heisman contenders are going head to head, but I think it's happened at least once. I still would make a case that conference championship weekend, when it's close, is what decides it. And I can give you examples of all the times that guys were close and one guy played and one guy sat, and that was it. And if you had flipped them, you would have had a different Heisman winner. So go read that. Go be a subscriber at the Substack, and you can read that story. All right. Let's talk about the other side of the ball. You said you like to lay it down. I don't lay it down as much. So, like,
I will say, you want it.
What do you? Oh, you. Well, give me
the same stats I ran through. I have it for this side of the ball too.
Oh, lay it down for me.
Let me just make sure. This is Ohio State defense, Indiana offense. Yes. Right. Ohio State scoring defense first, 7.8 points per game, 9 touchdowns in 12 games, which is ridiculous.
And again, like three of those against the backups.
Yeah. Indiana scoring offense second, 44.3 points per game. Yards per play, Indiana is sixth. Ohio State defense is first. Third down, Indiana is second. Ohio State's defense is third. Red zone touchdown percentage, Indiana offense seventh. Ohio State defense second.
Okay. And then there's a fancy little stat that I do have for you later that I want to throw out there. All Big Ten, making it first team for at least one of the Meteor coaches, 6 defensive players for Ohio State. Caden McDonald, defensive tackle, Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles at linebacker, Caleb Downs at safety, Caden Curry at defensive end, and Davis and Igbignosin at corner. Third team, Jermaine Matthews at corner, Jalen McClain at safety. For Indiana offense, Fernando Mendoza was the first team quarterback. Carter Smith was the first team left tackle. Both their receivers were second team, Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper Jr. Raleigh Nowakowski, their tight end, was second team, which actually surprised me a little bit, just like based on they don't throw to him a ton, but he made a huge catch for them against Penn State. I think he might be a well-rounded tight end overall. And Roman Hemby, their running back, was third team. So again, that's 8 guys on Ohio State's defense who made one of the teams, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys on Indiana's offense. You talked about the third down thing. Can I just give you this for a tiny little scooch here? Indiana on fourth down, 7 of 15, 109th in the nation, 47%.
That's interesting. I didn't look into this, but when I talked to Taylor for the show he put up Thursday morning, he said Indiana's had some issues in short yardage this year.
They, against Iowa, got stopped on 2 4th and 1s where Iowa penetrated into the backfield and tackled guys before they got back to the line of scrimmage. And then they had another one against Penn State that was right at the marker on a 4th and 1 run that I think they got by a quarter inch. Mm-hmm. So they don't go for it a ton, but they've had fourth down situations in key spots and not made it. Ohio State's fourth down defense, 7th in the nation. They're allowed 35% fourth down conversions, 9 of 26. So, keep it in your back pocket.
Teams have gone for it on fourth down 26 times against this defense.
Desperation. Yeah. So I think you go for it on fourth down for 2 reasons. One is like you think these guys can't stop us, and one is like, what else are we going to do?
Yeah,
you're desperate. You know, like we've never been this close to a first down all game. We're only a yard away. We got to try to do it. So, all right, offensive line. We'll start with the Indiana offensive line. They have, I think, 3. Is this right? 3 of the same guys from last year who played at Ohio State. And when Curt Cignetti this week talked about, what the difference was, maybe it's only 2 of them. Actually, it is only two of them.
It's two,
it's two. So it's left tackle Carter Smith and it's right guard Bray Lynch, because Drew Evans was a left guard last year, but he was hurt last year, just like he is hurt now, although I think people think he's going to play against Ohio State. So Curt Cignetti brought up two things when he talked about the Ohio State loss last year in Ohio Stadium. One is the special teams mishaps. They gave up a punt for a touchdown. They had a punt blocked. And the other is they couldn't protect the quarterback. And that was just an avalanche, Landis, of they couldn't do the silent count. They could barely get the ball snapped. They couldn't block them. And I think last year, as you've noted, that game was maybe closer early and closer at halftime than maybe in people's heads. And the special teams really helped swing it. But also one of the main takeaways is like Indiana's offensive line just didn't give them a chance. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Both in communication and just sort of like individual matchups couldn't really handle it.
No offense to our former guy, Mike Kadick, who we love and had on our old show multiple times and now is a superstar at Barstool, and best of luck to Mike Kadick, but they're better. So they're better up front. Let me run through the offensive line and get your opinion on this. Carter Smith, left tackle, first team All Big Ten, has only given up 5 pressures all year. Like, very good. Yes?
Yeah. Excellent.
So left tackle, excellent. Pat Coogan, the center, has only given up 7 pressures. The transfer from Notre Dame, started at Notre Dame last year after an injury, is like a veteran guy who's played in big games, played Ohio State in the national championship game last year. Pat Coogan, very good. Yes?
Yeah.
Pat Coogan. So I think like their left tackle and their center are really quite good. Left guard, Drew Evans has not played since week 9, but he did dress against Purdue last week, and he wasn't on the injury report, and I think people maybe thought he was going to play, and then it just sort of feels like, maybe Taylor talked about this, it sort of feels like he could have played. They didn't play him because it's Purdue, and they want him to really be ready for the Big Ten championship game. That would be a big deal to get him back. He's given up 4 pressures in 9 games. Like, he's pretty darn good when he plays. Do you think, did Taylor say anything about him playing, and do you think he's pretty good?
I do think he's good. I think he, like, pulling him out has really caused some issues for Indiana's offensive line. Because otherwise, like, their other guard spot's not great, and the guy who has to play for him might be like Zen Mahalski, maybe. Yeah, I do think he's good. I don't know what his status is. I think there was a hope they can get a full game out of him.
I think you have to anticipate that he's going to play because they held him out last week. So like that's left tackle, left guard, center, pretty good. Bray Lynch, the right guard, returning starter, giving up 13 pressures this year, I think is like okay. Is that like like not great? I don't think he's awful, but like yes?
Yeah, I think that is fair. Yes.
And then Khalil Benson has been the right tackle. He's been dealing with some injury stuff. He only played like half the game against Purdue last week. He's a guy who was at Indiana, transferred away last year, went to Colorado, and then was like, oh my God, Indiana's good, and came back to Indiana. So he's been the right tackle. He's given up 21 pressures this year, and 15 of the pressures he gave up were against Iowa, Oregon, and Penn State. Against good defenses, he's gotten blitzed. And he's dealing with an injury. And I think this is the weak link. And I think he's going to play. But if he doesn't play, Zen Mahalski, the Ohio State transfer, I think would be the next guy up there. He's the one who started, I think, last week against Purdue. Yeah. Either way, I think right tackle is the weak spot for Indiana.
I agree. I think that's where, whether it's Kenyatta Jackson or Caden Curry or Arvell Reese, they're going to find themselves in some favorable matchups over that spot.
I agree. So, keep that in mind. Watch for the Ohio State guys who are lining up over the right tackle. But in general, if your opinion last year of Indiana was like, these guys can't block, this is no problem for Ohio State, they're better. They're I think, better as a unit. And I think it will make, the way they talked about it last year is just the Ohio State crowd made them non-functional. And then we had Mike Kadick on our old show, and Mike Kadick was like, man, like it was just like we couldn't believe it. For all the times that I've questioned Ohio State's home field advantage, Indiana's offensive line made it sound like they couldn't play. So this is going to be, I'm a little curious about this, is it going to feel like both teams are on the road, that it's just going to be loud when every offense is on the field and you are going to have to deal with it in the dome? I don't know how it'll work out, but at least they're not actually in Ohio Stadium.
Yeah, I don't know. There's sort of just like a din in that stadium anyway, that like regardless of who's home, who's away, which fan base has the most people in there, just because like noise just sort of goes throughout the game. But then like it's going to be, at the very least like 50-50, but it could be more like a pro Indiana crowd. I think it'll be pretty well split, if I'm being honest. But I think it's just going to be loud the whole game. And Ohio State has lived in that world, right? Like Ohio State played on the silent count last week against Michigan. Ohio State had to play on a silent count against Texas in the Cotton Bowl last year because that was a road game. So I don't know how much of an impact it'll have on Ohio State. And it's something that carries over from last year for this matchup, sure. But like Indiana went to Autzen and dealt with that noise and was fine. So like it almost felt to me like I actually wonder how much they even practice on a silent count, like or like had one prepared going into the Ohio State game last year, because Ohio Stadium doesn't really have that reputation. But then it was really loud. Like it was surprisingly loud for that game because Indiana was top 5 and everyone wanted to see Sig put in his place. So even I was like sort of like, man, this place is kind of jumping for this game. So I think Indiana might have got caught a little off guard by that, and that won't happen again.
Okay. So let me state for the record, Ohio State's defense is great. They have All-Americans all over the field. So like last week when we did the Ohio State Michigan breakdown on this side, I just really wanted to make sure we talked a lot about the Ohio State defensive guys because I didn't want to overlook them. And I thought maybe Arvell Reese was like going to light it up last week, and it feels like they still played it like a little let's float in coverage, let's menace and drop off, like they didn't dial it up. I want to get to the dial it up conversation, but I want to run through the rest of this Indiana personnel because we got to get to Fernando Mendoza. So very quickly, running back Roman Hemby and Kalon Black, they're a two-headed monster at running back. Together they average 24 carries for 133 yards per game. They have 27 runs of 20 yards or more. That's 6th in the power conference. So like they don't have a million runs of like 50 yards, but they'll pop some stuff. Ohio State by comparison has 11 runs of 20 yards or more this year. So Ohio State 11, Indiana 27. I think the backs are good and the run game is good. I don't think Hemby and Black are the kind of thing you have to build your defensive game plan around, but they are quite a compliment when your quarterback is a first-round pick.
Yeah, I think that's right. I couldn't help but notice that Indiana's rushing efficiency takes a pretty drastic dip when they play good defenses.
I think that's right. I think like they are good enough to run it on overmatched teams, but I don't think it is a dominant run game against the best defenses in the country.
Yeah, but they still need to run it because they're so heavy. They're like I think the heaviest RPO team in the country. So like they're gonna try to run it because it's just a fundamental part of what they want to do, throwing the ball. But yeah, it's not a rushing attack I would be scared of. I don't think.
Okay, tight end Riley Nowakowski, as we talked about, second team All Big Ten. They're not in 12 personnel very much. He has 23 catches on 26 targets. He's never had more than 4 targets in a game. He's a check down guy. He caught a really big pass down the seam against Penn State. Like he'll make a play here or there. He plays a ton of snaps. He's a starting tight end. The next tight end does not play very much. Like he's a fine Big Ten tight end. He's not a guy that scares you, I don't think. The receivers are good. Omar Cooper Jr. and Elijah Surratt, both second team All Big Ten. Omar Cooper averages 67 yards per game. Elijah Surratt averages 65. But in the first 7 games of the year before he got hurt, Elijah Surratt was averaging 86 receiving yards per game. And he had 3 games with at least 8 catches. And I think he got a hamstring and he's just kind of been off. He's been out. And then he came back against Purdue last week and like didn't do a ton. It's similar, just receiver injuries across the Big Ten this year. Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, like all the best teams, they have these great receivers and they're hurt. I think you have to anticipate 100% Elijah Surratt on Saturday, given that he did come back against Purdue last week and played a pretty solid amount, played like 2/3 of the snaps, and he, I think, seemed fine. So I think you get the full Elijah Surratt, and then I think the full Elijah Surratt, Bill, is one of the best receivers in the country.
He is one of the best receivers in the country, and this is the best collection of receivers Ohio State will have played. Jalen McClain said that. That's not me saying that. Jalen McClain said that on Wednesday night.
Okay.
Without hesitation, this is the best group of receivers they've played.
Okay. So Omar Cooper Jr. is the guy who made the amazing Gus Johnson lost his voice catch against Penn State. Really good. E.J. Williams, Charlie Becker, 3rd and 4th receivers. They'll have 3 receivers on the field a lot. Charlie Becker kind of wasn't doing anything. And then when Surratt was hurt, Becker stepped up, had a 100-yard game against Penn State, made a huge catch on the sideline in that game. And then E.J. Williams is like a good number 3 receiver. So like they have 4 guys they can count on. Like frankly, like their 4th receiver is better than Ohio State's 4th receiver, at least from what we've seen. Like this is pretty good receiver depth. You know,
it is pretty good. Good size too. Becker and Williams are both like 6'4", right?
Yeah. Like when Indiana needed their fourth receiver to play because one of their starters was hurt, he's a 6'4" guy who had 8 catches, I think, the whole season and had a 100-yard game against Penn State. When Ohio State needed their guys to play against Rutgers, is like they didn't have anybody. So like it's to understand that this is a real receiver group and this is where the strength of the team is, but it's about Fernando Mendoza. Mm-hmm. And let me run through for you years of starting experience for the Power 4 conference quarterbacks that Ohio State has faced this year. Arch Manning, first-year starter for Texas. Damon Williams, Washington, first-year starter. Drake Lindsey, Minnesota, first-year starter. Luke Altmaier, Illinois, third-year starter. Wisconsin, Hunter Simmons, started 3 games at Northern Illinois last year, but basically a first-year starter. Penn State, Ethan Grunkmeyer, first-year starter. Purdue, Ryan Brown, started 2 games last year, I think, but really a first-year starter. UCLA, they didn't get Nico, so they got the backup guy who was making his first career start. Rutgers, Ethan Kaliak-Manis, third-year starter. Bryce Underwood, first-year starter. So this is Fernando Mendoza. He's a third-year starter, 2 years at Cal. This will be his 32nd career start. The only guys who are close in terms of experience that Ohio State faced this year were Luke Altmaier and Ethan Kaliak-Manis. And Luke Altmaier had a little stretch there in the second half where they got a little something going, as people will remember. Luke Altmaier started 5 for 11 as Ohio State got up 20-0. And then they had an 11-play drive for 69 yards. They had a 12-play drive for 75 yards. And Illinois started moving the ball, and they made it 20-10. And it was like, that was the thing. Brett Bielema after the game was like, oh, we had them on their heels. They got up tempo a little bit. They let the veteran quarterback sort of call the plays at the line and go, right? So it's just a reminder. And they threw it to Devin Sanchez. That's a good point. It is a reminder. It doesn't mean that Ohio State can't defend veteran quarterbacks. It's just a reminder that Matt Patricia, NFL mind, with the smartest collection of on-field defenders that you'll find, have been playing with house money against a bunch of young guys this year, and that's not the case on Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I listen, Mendoza will make some wild throws at times. He's not yet an NFL quarterback, but he will be. And I just think it just ups the degree of difficulty, I think, pretty significantly for Ohio State. Just like that cat and mouse game of disguising coverages and stuff is what we're talking about. I think Mendoza, because not only does he have 30 starts, but he's just been in college for a long time and is probably better at studying defenses and during the week than a lot of these young quarterbacks that Ohio State has faced. So I think Patricia will have something for him schematically, maybe that Ohio State hasn't shown a lot of this year and won't make it easy on him. They're not going to, there was a stretch in the middle of the season where Ohio State was just we're going to play cover 3 and there's not really much you can do about it. That will not be this game. But there's enough there for Ohio State to get to, but it'll be really fun to watch that back and forth, and obviously who ultimately wins that battle. Because it was funny to me, Bryce Underwood said on Fox, I think I mentioned it's me versus Matt Patricia, and it's well, not really. You're not ready for that. But I think Mendoza might be and it's not to say he's going to get the better of it, but I think he'll be as prepared for this as any quarterback that Ohio State has played so far.
And just a reminder for everybody, people think he's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. So if you're welcome to think whatever you think about this guy or who Indiana has played or hasn't played. NFL draft analysts think he might be the number 1 pick in the draft. Now, I think that is slightly reflective of the quarterback crop, but that's where we are. So that's who Fernando Mendoza is. And he's a veteran, and everything Julian Sand talked about it, Ryan Day talked about it, smart, accurate, good decision maker, all those things, right? He's also a little scooty. The numbers aren't huge, but if you get after him on third down, he's had against good defenses and big moments, he'll run for a first down on third down, much more than Julian Sand will. He is a more natural athlete than Julian Sand. He will get out and go, and he will make big plays with his legs when necessary. He had a play against Penn State when he was leading stuff down at the end where he got out of the pocket, looked like he was going to run on third down, and then threw a sidearm pass in the red zone for a first down. That was what was that?
Yeah.
It was amazing. But here's my question. In that game, they blitzed him, for instance, guess what? Happy Blitzmore blitzed him in the red zone. But then he made this amazing play and they kept blitzing him. And I think 2 plays after that, they blitzed him and he got sacked. And then on third down, they blitzed him again, and they flushed him out of the pocket, and he had to throw short of the sticks. So he made this amazing third down escape and sidearm throw in the red zone to get a first down. But Penn State kept blitzing. This season, according to PFF, how often he's been blitzed in games. Illinois blitzed him 41%. He was really good against it. Iowa, according to PFF, blitzed him 67% of the time, Bill. And
that's a lot of blitzing for Iowa.
He was not great against the blitz. Oregon blitzed him 41% of the time, and he wasn't great. UCLA blitzed him 60% of the time. He was pretty good. Penn State blitzed him 50% of the time. He was okay. Last week, Purdue blitzed him 56% of the time, and he was not that good. Overall, he's been blitzed 46% of the time this year. According to PFF, quarterbacks against the blitz, their offensive rating against the blitz. Number 1 is Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. Number 2 is Julian Sand. He's been number 1 most of the year against the blitz. Fernando Mendoza is 18th. When he's not blitzed, best quarterback against when you're not blitzed. Number 1, Julian Sand. Number 4, Fernando Mendoza. So when he's not blitzed, he's 4. When he is blitzed, he's 18. PFF also has like the NFL QBR rating. Mm-hmm. When you're blitzed by the QBR rating, Julian Sand 1, Fernando Mendoza 4, so much better than 18. When you're not blitzed, Fernando Mendoza 1, Julian Sand 2. There are examples of this, Bill, of people lighting him up, just getting after him. They beat Iowa on a quick slant against zero coverage where Iowa brought 7 from midfield on 3rd and 10 with 1:53 left. They brought 7. Indiana had 7 guys in the block. He got the ball out on a quick slant to Elijah Surratt. Surratt broke 1 tackle. There was no safety there, and Indiana won. He also made a throw against Iowa where they brought both linebackers up the middle. One got through and hit Fernando Mendoza in the face, and he ripped a 30-yard ball down the seam. There are also plays where he got blitzed and got hit as he was throwing and threw a pick against Iowa that should have lost him the game. He makes some goofy throws sometimes because I think he believes in himself so much.
Yeah.
So he will make giant throws against the blitz, but he will also make mistakes. And there are some of the best defenses that he's faced have lit him up over and over again and have been willing to take the risk because they think there is some reward in it. Do you think Ohio State should and will blitz Fernando Mendoza?
I thought they were going to blitz Bryce Underwood, and they didn't. Really. But they did not do that because it was evident maybe they wouldn't have to. They just sort of like had the game controlled, and that's why the blitz percentage ended up being lower. I wasn't tracking like if they blitzed them earlier than pull back. I don't know. But if you look like the games before that, I actually think, tell me if you disagree with this, and I don't want to sound silly when I say it, but like the offense that Ohio State has played that maybe might be like most similar to Indiana is Rutgers. I don't think they're as good, but just sort of like stylistically, a bunch of receivers, strong arm
QB, yep,
like kind of cocky at times. Quarterback would like a veteran QB wants to hang in there and let it rip. They blitzed them a lot, like a ton, by Ohio State standards. Or it's also hard to tell on PFF sometimes. Like, is it actually a blitz? Or is it simulated pressure? Like, whatever. They were trying to get after him. So I think yes. My answer is yes, but my answer was also yes last week, and I was wrong. That's the only thing that gives me some hesitancy. But I would try it, like, to see maybe if he won't throw you the ball a time or two, and maybe you can get a couple turnovers, maybe you get a defensive score, because they're just like, especially against these like very good defense, he's just like he feels, for a guy who is as highly regarded as he is, he feels a little loose to me at times when he's playing against very good defenses.
Yes, he's smart. He's accurate. It is difficult because he's not at all a statue. So some of these like quarterbacks who they haven't blitzed, Damon Williams Jr., Bryce Underwood, it's like you don't blitz. They didn't need to blitz a young guy because they wanted to keep him in the pocket. They didn't want to let him run. And then they were like, try to diagnose this, and we think you can't. So we don't have to blitz you. He will escape. So if he was just, Drake Lindsay at Minnesota, it's like you can get after that guy's not going to go anywhere. Mendoza will run. But I think if you sit back, he might pick you apart Now, can they get enough 4-man pressure where they don't have to blitz? Like the blitz is named, where's number 8? Wouldn't that be a good nickname? That'd be confusing for the announcers, but if you just nicknamed an individual player the blitz, it's like, are you going to blitz Indiana? It's like, well, what do you mean? Are we going to bring more than 4, or are we just going to bring Arvell Reese, who's known as the blitz? God, that's a good name. Because they haven't been doing that either. Like I did an 11-minute presentation last week about how they've been letting Arvell Reese just kind of float around for a month, and they're going to unleash him against Michigan. They kind of floated around again.
He did.
Like they didn't need to unleash him. So now do they unleash him?
He did have that 2-play sequence where he like strung out a run and they got a 5-yard loss and then just like annihilated a running back on a screenplay. And it's like, this drive stop was brought to you by Arvell Reese. So
but he annihilated a running back because he wasn't rushing the passer.
He was dropped out in zone. Yeah.
He was dropped out in zone in the middle of the defense, and then he triggered like teach tape and ripped the man in half.
Yeah.
So, but I think you have to pressure Mendoza. I think you have to try. So maybe you believe in Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson and Cade McDonald and Arvell Reese enough that you don't actually have to blitz. But I think you have to try to speed him up and get after him and try to force him into a couple mistakes. He's great. Do not question how good Fernando Mendoza is. There are times when he looks like an NFL quarterback. You said he's not, and he's not. But there are times when he's just like managing things and making 21-yard throws with no hesitation and like putting things in the exact right spot and reading defenses where it's like, I can see why this guy's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. But also, Penn State, an interception and 3 sacks, and they had to come back because they should have lost. Wisconsin, 5 sacks. Purdue last week, no sacks, but he was 8 of 15 for 117 yards. Now, I guess they were powering down as Purdue. They weren't that worried. But for as good as he's been and that he's the Heisman favorite right now, he's also like, has moments. He has some big play. Oh, Heisman moment. He has some of those. But then he also has more negative plays. Now, he's only thrown 5 picks all year because we can't pretend that he's like just chucking the ball around. But he has 9 turnover-worthy plays. Sayan has 5. So he's still pretty under control. But taking 5 sacks against Wisconsin, you know, and again, credit to Wisconsin's defensive line, I get it. But it's like, I just think this to me is the thing that I came away the most interested in. Ohio State's defense is great. I think they've been a sit back and make a team try to pick them apart kind of defense. And I think that's not the plan this game because Fernando Mendoza is the guy who might be able to pick you apart no matter how good you are. So you have these great athletes and you have a smart defensive coordinator. Let's dial it up and try to light this guy up. I think that's going to be the plan.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I want to look and see. So you said it was the Wisconsin game?
Yeah.
He took how many sacks?
5.
Like
Wisconsin blitzed him 35% of the time, and he was pretty good, had good numbers against the blitz, but still took 5 sacks.
I thought the Wisconsin game for Ohio State was like Julian Sayan's best game in terms of like sack avoidance because he was pressured. That was a bad offensive line game for Ohio State. He got pressured a lot. And maybe got sacked once or twice. But also was like moving the pocket, throwing off platform, just like not the pressure didn't derail the offense. I mean, it slowed the offense down some, but like he wasn't getting hit and getting sacked that much. So like, yes, Mendoza runs more, but I wonder if Sayan might actually be a little bit better, like kind of moving in the pocket to avoid that. Like watching Mendoza scramble, it's like there was one against Oregon. I think it was against Oregon where like it almost looked like a QB draw, but it wasn't. It was just like he dropped back in the middle, just parted. So he just ran right down the middle. So like that's a scramble. It's not a designed run. And I think some more of the scrambles, like he's not like standing there dropping the ball, like shaking a guy out of his shoes and then scrambling, right? It's like if there's a lane, there's a lane. If there's not, he's probably got to stand there and try to make a throw. And that's when he seems to get himself in trouble. So again, I would certainly try it. I guess I think Indiana's offensive line is definitely improved. I think it's improved from merely like a below average Big Ten line to probably like a pretty good one, but not a great one. So it could be a case where Ohio State is able to generate pressure with like its 4 defensive linemen, and maybe they don't have to blitz, but I would certainly be trying to put pressure on Mendoza. I don't think I would use like the plan it seemed like Ohio State used against Arch Manning, which is like our disguise is just going to confuse the hell out of this kid, and it doesn't matter what we do up front. I think if you give Mendoza time to like sit back there, he'll figure out where the ball's supposed to go. So why not try to heat him up?
So did I mention this that game against Illinois where Altmaier and the Illini offense had 2 consecutive scoring drives where they marched down the field more than 10 plays? The next drive, Matt Patricia dialed up a slot blitz from Jermaine Matthews, or like the second or third play, and he got to Altmaier and knocked the ball out, and Caden Curry recovered it for a turnover. So that to me was a moment of where you had a veteran quarterback who was starting to do his thing a little bit, then they dialed something up and it worked. So I think going into this game, they should anticipate that if you let Fernando Mendoza sit back there, he's going to engineer a couple 10-play drives. So get to that point now, because maybe against Altmaier weren't exactly sure. I think Altmaier in that passing attack, Hank Beatty, like it's a decent, like, I think the Rutgers passing attack, as it turned out, I thought Rutgers might move the ball a little bit against Ohio State. They didn't do anything.
They didn't, no.
But like Ethan Kalakmanis, as good a numbers as those Rutgers receivers have, and there's some guys on there who are going to get drafted. Like there's some real guys, but they might be more like the 6th grade version of the Indiana offense. And maybe Altmaier with Hank Beatty and a couple things, maybe they're more like the 8th grade version of the Indiana offense. And then Indiana's like the real deal.
Yeah.
So I think this is the number one thing that I am most curious about. And so like to run through the Ohio State defensive players, they're awesome. So, and can we just give we talked about it, I think on our Sunday show when we ran through kind of the Ohio State Michigan game and discussed everything that happened, but some of the early Michigan runs could have been bigger runs if not for Jalen McClain, who is, I think, definitively the most underrated player on Ohio State's team, just because he's surrounded by All-Americans on defense, and he is just a first-year starter who is pretty excellent at his job. Please relay the conversation that you had with Jalen McClain.
Yeah, I said, first I asked him, I said, what's it take to like stay patient on those plays to make sure you're not taking yourself out of position when you're sort of the last line of defense? And he said something along the lines of, I have the fate of the program and the fate of Buckeye Nation on my back. I'm not going to let that happen. And then I said, did you get any extra shout outs like in meetings or film review or whatever for basically saving 3 touchdowns? And he said, that's my job. I don't need shout outs. I said, okay.
You just sold 10 McClain jerseys. I mean, like, forget Roback. Like, that's an advertisement for Jalen McClain. That dude's he knows what's up, man.
He is. There's a seriousness about him that is shocking because he's a true sophomore, but like makes him great, right? He's just about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Caleb Jr. Okay. He's going to be running that defense next year.
Yes.
So like for Ohio State, everyone knows this. I don't have to spend 20 minutes on this. There's not a particular weakness. So can Jermaine Matthews and Davis and Igbignosin cover Omar Cooper Jr. and Elijah Surratt? Yes, they can. Now, are they getting a little handsy? Yes.
I think that's something for this game.
I'm not so sure that they are that much more handsy than they've been, because again, I think the handsiness, it's straight line handsiness, which is so different to me than out of break handsiness or I got beat and you're running by me handsiness. They are running stride for stride with receivers and grabbing them, and they've gotten away with that a lot this year. They are very physical. They have their hands all over guys all the time, and a lot of the time they get away with it. Because it's not that. It's not a jersey pull, right? It's just physicality during the route and at the catch point. And then they got called a couple times last week. So, like, I think it's a little bit on how it's officiated. I'm not saying that I don't know how it should be officiated. right? But I'm just saying, I don't think all of a sudden last week they started playing differently. I think they started getting called differently. So they just have to be aware of that and adjust. But the other thing is here too, I felt like last year with Curtis Rourke, the Indiana quarterback, it was all about back shoulder, back shoulder, back shoulder. Like watch the back shoulder throws. That's all we talked about before the Ohio State-Indiana matchup last year. And they'll still do that. But really, Ryan Day mentioned it. You mentioned it, right? This is RPO. This is the RPO game in the middle of the field, reading, ripping, and I don't know, like I think Ohio State is as equipped as anybody to deal with that too. But explain how you think Fernando Mendoza, if he is gonna take a defense apart, how's he really do it?
Yeah, it's heavy RPO. And there'll be some hit like outside hitches similar to what Ohio State's RPO game is really sort of limited to outside hitches if there's a big cushion for Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate, or like those bubble reliefs that are sort of like determined pre-snap. Indiana's is a little different. They will throw those hitches and they will throw those bubbles, but they'll try to attack the middle of the field with RPOs too. So I think you're going to see Kate, like I think I said this last week. Again, it didn't come to fruition, so I could very well be wrong, because Michigan does a lot of RPO stuff too. They just didn't really get to it against Ohio State. But I thought we might see the Caleb Downs plan of like kind of sticking him in the middle, like in a level between the linebackers and the safeties, to try to take away those middle of the field throws. And I would anticipate seeing him used in that way against Indiana. It's just like Michigan does it. Yes, it is like fundamental to Indiana's offense. So I would expect to see that. Like Caleb Downs was great last week. Everyone on defense was, but this is a spot where Ohio State's really going to need him, but both against the run, because Indiana likes to run it inside when he'll be in those spots. But like shutting down the RPO game is going to be gigantic for Ohio State's defense.
Probably not a ton of three linebacker, right? With as much as
no, they don't.
Indiana
they don't
will have three receivers in the field.
Yeah, they play. I was looking Taylor Lehman, who I talked to, had like 2 weeks ago had like an off week kind of like personnel tendency breakdown, and I think his thing said like Indiana is like 85% 11 personnel. Like they rarely get in 12 personnel. Yeah.
11 personnel is three receivers. So like expect to see three receivers in the field, expect Lorenzo Styles to be in the game for Ohio State. I have my job. I have no sense of whether this is going to be a defensive battle, a shootout.
Yes.
It's hard for me to think that anyone's going to get into a shootout with the Ohio State defense, but this is probably the two best defenses in the country, like not just statistically, but play
these
caller, actual
Texas Tech,
personnel.
Oklahoma. Like
you're right. Texas Tech is way up there. Texas Tech is way up there. Two of the four best defenses in the country, and then the offenses are like two of the best 8, right? So if you want to get into the Vanderbilt offense and the USC offense, but they have, I think both these teams have great quarterbacks.
I would agree that if I had to pick a side of the ball for either of these teams, I'd pick the defense first.
Yes, I think they're both defense first teams that happen to have Heisman candidate quarterbacks, and they both have two great receivers. They're so similar. The quarterbacks are great. The receivers are great. The running game is pretty good. The offensive lines are pretty good, but perhaps you're not like 100% certain in them all the time. And then they have standouts at all three levels of the defense.
Yeah.
So
the difference between the two is that Ohio State has like 8 first-round picks on it, and it's top 22, and I don't know that Indiana has any.
So, I mean, it's no offense to be like they don't quite have a Caleb Downs. They don't quite have a Jeremiah Smith. Like that's probably the bigger difference. And then, as you also pointed out, the second cornerback spot that Jermaine Matthews and Davis Igbenogson as a pair, D'Angelo Pons and the second corner, like that's an edge for Ohio State. But it is they play great ball. They're very well coached.
They're incredibly well. They might. I maybe say that they're maybe the best coach team in the country.
Yeah,
Indiana.
That I think so. And don't underestimate the talent, but like the NFL draft will tell the story in the next 2 years, and Ohio State will have much more there than Indiana. But they play really well together. They all have a chip on their shoulder. But it's not a bunch of scrappy underdogs. Like, these are really good football players. They're
really good. Yeah, I think you can convince yourself rather easily and understandably so that there's like a huge talent advantage for Ohio State, and there definitely is a talent advantage when you look at the recruiting pedigree at a high school, but then also consider like there are a lot of up transfers from G6 programs on Indiana's roster still. But this Indiana staff is, I think, the best unquestionably in college football at identifying those up transfers and not missing.
And they're incredibly connected because Cignetti was talking about that this week, that Mike Shanahan, the offensive coordinator, and Bryant Haynes, the defensive coordinator, have both been with him for more than a decade. The strength guy's been with him forever. I think the special teams guy's been with him a long time. And Ryan Day, in losing Brian Hartline this week, and Brian Hartline still with the team, is going to stay through the end of the season, was talking about stability, right? And that stability is important. Mm-hmm. So the stability at Indiana is not at Indiana, but it's stability with the staff that those three guys, the point of the spear with Cignetti, Shanahan, and Haynes, they know each other inside and out. And they've won at every level. And their success has gotten them to this point. And that is unusual to be, I think, that connected as a staff. And the proof's in the pudding. So I think it's a good game. We'll do Whatcha at the end, but first we're going to do our picks. Bill Landis, it's a 4.5-point spread. What is your pick for Ohio State, Indiana?
Oh, not a betting show, but Ohio State 10-1-1 against the spread. Indiana 7-5. 8 of Ohio State's games have gone under. 7 of Indiana's games have gone over, and there's a push in there too. I think it's going to be like a defensive kind of struggle. I think I could see like both teams probably punting more than they want to, and maybe kind of explosive plays rule the day. And I'm just going to trust Ohio State to find more of those against Indiana's defense than I do Indiana to find against Ohio State's defense. So I'm going to pick Ohio State to cover, but still a pretty close game. I have Ohio State 28-20.
Oh, okay. I had my pick, and then you started talking, and I changed my pick, and then my pick was going to be basically exactly the same as your pick. So I'll go back to my original pick, and I'll say Ohio State 31-23, which is like this is, if you scored 20 on Ohio State's defense, like that's time to party.
Congratulations, you're the first.
So like that is, I think, great respect for the Indiana offense, we're not throwing 9s and 6s out there, right? But when you have a quarterback like Fernando Mendoza, who is a decision maker like this, but can still make some plays, he's a decision maker and a playmaker. And like, it's funny, like Ryan Day says, like, I respected his decision making. He'll make some goofy decisions. Like, he's not so far down the line of, I have to make the right decision, that he's afraid to do stuff. He doesn't play afraid. I don't think he plays afraid at all. Mm-hmm. Like, I think he's actually probably got almost the mix that you want of, there's a foundation of intelligence and decision-making and accuracy there, but then he will get loose. But getting loose is how you make plays that win games.
Yes.
So he'll scramble when he needs to. He'll get out of the pocket, make a sidearm throw. He'll try something in a tough spot. So I think that would lead to both potentially some big plays and some mistakes on Saturday night. So we'll both take Ohio State minus the points and anticipate a banger of a night for the Big Ten.
Looking forward to it.
What you watching, what you eating, what you thinking is brought to you by nobody, but maybe someday it will be brought to you by somebody. Bill Landis, we didn't get to do it on Wednesday. We are back to do it now. What are you watching?
I don't have a new show or anything like that for anybody. I'm just I think people know I have a young child who's going to turn 3 here in a little bit. So trying as much as I can to like expose him to the things that I liked when I was a kid. And it's fun, like, because you can like actually like stream some of like all the stuff I watched on Nickelodeon when I was a kid is like on Paramount Plus now, which is like kind of cool. We haven't gotten into much of that yet, but it is the holiday season, and I have always been a huge fan of, there's like produces them. Rankin and Bass like Christmas movies. It's like they're like puppets or whatever. Like Santa Claus is coming to town and Year Without a Santa Claus. I love Year Without a Santa Claus. I think it's my favorite Christmas movie. And he and I sat on the couch and watched it the other night, and it was great. He wasn't paying attention at all, had no idea what was going on, but he was at least sitting next to me while we watched it. And every now and again would look up and point on the TV and notice that Santa was on the TV. So that's what I was watching. It was more so for me than it was for him, but it warmed my heart to sit down with him and watch that, even if he didn't care.
Yeah, no, that's good. Some of the Christmas stuff is as good for that kind of thing as anything you'll find. So you got to lean in. This is not like the stop motion animation, which is the cool stuff, but there is the one. It's just regular drawing. It's Frosty the Snowman, and my mother still brings this up. Frosty melts at one point, right? Yes, Frosty melts. Yeah. Frosty melting is the most traumatic thing that ever happened to me. My mom will be like, "Oh, Doug is a sensitive boy. He cried when Frosty melted." And it's like, yeah, I did. I can feel myself crying as a 4-year-old when Frosty melted. So be careful.
Yeah. I need to watch. My mom always told me this story. A Very Brady Christmas premiered the day before I was born. And like my mom watched A Very Brady Christmas like in the hospital with infant Bill. So I'm looking forward to watching that with my son at some point.
Nice. How big were you? Do you know?
I actually wasn't that big of a baby. No. Like I think like average size. Yeah.
Oh, you never know. I mean, I thought you could have been 12-pounder. No offense. Just like stuff happens, right?
No. People often assume that, but I was not a gigantic baby, just a gigantic adult.
So we went and saw Zootopia 2, which is the new Pixar movie. And I thought it was good. I do enjoy movies that are like, they do a lot of world building. So this is like Zootopia is kind of built that way, that it's like there's different parts of the world for the different animals. And so there's just a lot of, it's been 9 years since the first one came out. So it's like, I kind of forgot what Zootopia was about, but there's just a lot of good, like, and then I start to think about, maybe they'll make a theme park area like that. And they actually have at one of the Disney parks, like in China or Japan, they've made a Zootopia area. So anyway, recommend it. But also it brought up again a thing that I've talked about on various shows with you, which is sexy cartoon animals. So we have discussed, is it Cosmo the Cougar or Cosmo Cougar, who is the BYU mascot? And
I can't remember if there's a the there or not, but yeah.
But he's seductive. Hot. Yeah. He's very seductive. He's got a 6-pack. He's a cougar who's shaped like a human, and he has a cougar face, but he can also get it. So like Cosmo Cougar is like
the cougar, the Cosmo the Cougar.
Cosmo the Cougar. He can get the it. And so the fox in Zootopia, his name is Nick Wilde. He is voiced by Jason Bateman. And I'll just give her up. My older daughter was like, "Yeah, Nick Wilde, what's up?" And it's interesting because it's Jason Bateman's voice, and Jason Bateman, almost everything he does has this like very droll delivery, right? But often, because we're accustomed to Jason Bateman and we know what Jason Bateman looks like, and he's a handsome guy, he's a movie star, but it's a lot of like, he kind of often sort of plays like a dork. That when he's being dry as himself, it's not sexy. It's sort of like, okay, you're the dad, right? That you're telling everybody, oh, great, now we have to go get in the station wagon, right? Like that kind of thing. But when he's drawn as a fox, that delivery, it's the same delivery, but it hits different. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, yeah, now you're sly, Jason Bateman. So it's just weird. I don't know if it's weird to be attracted to mascots and cartoon characters, but in my family, we are. What are you going to do?
They have whole conventions built around that. You're fine.
Okay, fine. Thanks. Yeah. What are you eating?
Have we ever discussed the merits of turkey as a breakfast meat?
What?
Yeah, it's pretty great. I want to give credit where it's due. Berm is the one that put me onto it. But we got a smoked turkey. We got a smoked turkey for for Thanksgiving, and there was just a lot of it left over. So I've been making turkey, egg, and cheese sandwiches with the smoked turkey. They're dynamite. More places got to get turkey in the mix for breakfast sandwiches. Like I want to be able to go to like whatever Tim Hortons and get a turkey, egg, and cheese on a bagel. But you can't do that because no one considers. It's been hard enough to get people to recognize chicken as a breakfast meat, which it very much is. But then turkey is so specific to Thanksgiving that it's like no one's ever going to do that. But they should, because it really works.
So let me ask you, I think one of the reasons that we started recognizing chicken as a breakfast meat is because of Chick-fil-A, because they're a chicken restaurant and they want to be open in the morning. We've discussed this. We have so many chicken restaurants now. It's wonderful. I'm not complaining. Chick-fil-A and Cane's and Zaxby's and everybody who's chicken first. And now even Wendy's wants to be a chicken first restaurant, and it's a total mistake. And I hope they go back. But could you start the first turkey first fast food restaurant? Where is the Chick-fil-A of turkey? You're getting it at breakfast. You're getting it at lunch. Can you bread turkey and make a turkey nugget? Like, what are we doing? Whoa. Everybody is in on the chicken trend. Where is the innovation? Where is the leader in saying, I'm making a turkey restaurant where I'm getting turkey fingers? I'm getting a turkey breaded sandwich. Now, you still have the regular kind of sandwich, but like, is that not possible? Why can't we do that?
I don't know. I'm looking to see if because the place that comes closest to that is Boston Market, but I don't think Boston Market does turkey, right? They just do chicken.
No, well, they used to do like, because Boston Market, when they're doing it, they're giving you a fancy plate. And I used to like to go to Boston Market and I would get turkey because it's like they'll give you like a Thanksgiving plate. It's like that, but they're not. Yeah. It's still fancy. Fancy. My definition of fancy is. But it's corn. Not a.
There's corn. It must be fancy.
There's corn. It's not a turkey finger. I want a turkey finger. It's not a turkey nugget. I want a turkey nugget.
I want to try. Part of me, I don't know, because the texture of turkey is a little different than chicken, and it's not as tender. So maybe it wouldn't work as like a fried piece of meat. I don't know. I'd be willing to try it to see, but I'm not convinced it would work. But maybe it's great, and we're on to something.
Because that would help us get to the turkey breakfast meat, right? But you're saying at the moment, if you want to lean into turkey breakfast meat, you have to do it in the privacy of your own home.
You do, yeah. And I've done, like, you can go to the deli or grocery store, just get sliced turkey lunch meat, and you can use that. That's great. But this is like a nice thick slice of smoked turkey, with egg and cheese. I like it on a beef steak rye. That's my choice. That's my bread of choice for a breakfast sandwich.
Okay. Nice. I had oatmeal for breakfast.
Nice.
I don't want to ruin your day, and I am not stating this as fact. But in my house, if my wife says it, then it's a fact.
Sure.
Eating turkey leftovers on Monday, and she said this is the last day you can eat it because you can't eat turkey leftovers more than like 4 days after Thanksgiving because the turkey will go bad. And I was devastated, and I'm not sure that I believe it. And are these the rules that other people adhere to? And I don't want to ruin your turkey breakfast meat sandwiches, but you're a week out now, brother. How long can you eat turkey?
I don't know. I let the smell guide me. if it's not smelling funky, I still make a breakfast sandwich.
Yeah, that's also good advice for life. Yeah, but I think there's a smell slime factor. Right?
Oh, slime too. Yeah.
So if it smells good and there's no slime on it, slap it on some beefsteak rye and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what the rules are. So I don't know what everybody else adheres to.
See. I'm going to ask Google AI. Well,
yeah.
Leftover turkey lasts for 3 to 4 days in the refrigerator and 2 to 6 months in the freezer for best quality.
Okay, so I just ruined your day, ruined your week, and you might have to go to the hospital because you've been eating 6-day-old turkey for breakfast.
Yeah, you can just freeze. Maybe I should have frozen it. Whatever. I feel fine. So
yeah,
if it's delicious. There is some left. Maybe I shouldn't have it tomorrow.
Also, holiday pies at McDonald's, chef's kiss. Right? Everyone loves the holiday pie.
I haven't had one yet. Yeah.
Oh yeah, holiday pies are back. Where did you go? I ate lunch at 4:30 yesterday on signing day. I know you ate very late. Where did you go for lunch?
You know what I did? I went to Potbelly, and I got a sandwich, and I ate my lunch, was practically dinner, and then I went and laid in my car and took a nap for like 10 minutes.
Oh, beautiful!
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
Yeah,
but if anybody was at the shopping center that's on 3rd and Olentangy, and you saw a guy sleeping in his car, that was me.
That was Bill. Yeah. I went to McDonald's and ate lunch at 4:30 and had a holiday pie for dessert. So,
Yeah.
Holiday pies are where it's at because I love the crust of a McDonald's pie, but I'm not a big fruit filling pie guy. So then you get that custard in there and you still get it's just the best. All right. What are you thinking about?
I don't have a good thinking. It's a college football thinking, I guess, maybe. Because you and I were talking about this yesterday. We talked about it on the playoff show on Tuesday, and we both decided we thought Notre Dame was out. But the betting market still does not reflect it. Notre Dame is still minus 355. Now it's gone down. It keeps going down, but it's at minus 355 still to make the playoff. And I'm wondering if we were wrong.
So I will say this because I saw someone else mention this I saw someone mention on Twitter that whatever it was that was happening last year, that the betting market did not anticipate it or something. That I think this might be one of those where I think too much people take the betting market as fact. And now whatever this Kalshi thing is, it's like that now that somehow is just facts and it's just anticipation. And I don't even know how it works. But betting markets are not facts. It is just, right, it starts with somebody's assumption, probably a smart assumption, and then the public helps decide it or not. So in this circumstance, and I hope you didn't mind it, I tweeted out sort of like when we did our playoff show, I was like, well, here's how we actually think it could unfold. And it's all your thinking. I'm not trying to take credit for it. It's like your theory that I have completely adopted because I think you're 100% right. And I think in this case, I would trust you much more than I would trust the betting market. I think in this one instance, and as two people who have probably lost more money betting than we've won, certainly, I think you're smarter than the betting market about this.
Okay, I'll take that. Sure. I don't know. It makes me nervous because I was pretty certain. I don't go out on a limb all that often with like takes and opinions on things, and I was like pretty certain and said as much on the show, and now I'm worried I'm going to be wrong.
No. Well, everybody's wrong sometimes. It's okay, but I think you're going to be right.
I'm wrong a lot.
Yeah. So my last thing is I am getting tired of the beard. And so yeah, I think it's about, my original plan was to do it and then shave it into a mustache for a day during November, and then I missed it. And now it's December. And I don't think I would ever do this long term, but do you think I could have an unironic mustache? Or if I had just a mustache and no beard, would it look ironic on me?
I think it might, yeah. I think that's true of everybody. I don't think, if you're not someone who's just sort of like known for having a mustache and then suddenly you show up with one, it's ironic. There's nothing you can do about it. Even if it looks great, it's still ironic. So I give it a shot if you want to. It might work for you, but just know that people will think it is ironic.
Because I was thinking about this, like I almost was maybe going to do it like for Tuesday or Wednesday of this week because I just wanted to have a mustache for a day. Because when last time I grew a beard like 11 years ago, when I shaved it off, I did shave it off in stages and I took pictures and it's like I did mutton chops and then I did a goatee and then I did a mustache and it was like I bit by bit. But I thought to myself, if I show up with just a mustache at an Ohio State news conference, first of all, every single person I interact with is going to comment on it. And I think there's a chance that Ryan Day from the podium will comment on it.
I think there is too. Yeah.
It would be so striking. Why does Doug, like a beard, it just kind of grows in a little bit. And then people are like, oh, you have a beard. But a mustache, there's a moment because you can't slide into a mustache really. Because, right? Don't you usually kind of do this and then go to the mustache? It's a shock to the system. And I don't want my unironic mustache to be a thing. So I think I just might have to shave it all off because I think
you should. Here's what I feel
weird. I feel weird.
I think you should let it grow out a little more and get fuller, and then see whether or not Ohio State's going to go to the Orange Bowl. And then if they get sent to Miami, then you shave the mustache and you just go out like you go hang out in like Little Havana.
Okay.
With a mustache, and I think you'd fit in.
Leave a couple buttons undone.
Couple buttons down. Okay. Yeah, get like a gold bracelet. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll think about it, but I'm almost out. I'm almost done with this. So, all right, maybe I'll let everything grow a little bit more. But then also, I would just be worried that people be like, "Oh, Doug, if I change my facial hair and then Ohio State loses the next game, then people are going to think that I jinxed Ohio State." right?
Oh, that's
Like,
true.
do I just have to keep this now till the end of the season, whatever happens?
Playoff beard. Yeah.
So, but I'm kind of done. So it's fine. I mean, I'm glad I did it, but I'm not a full-time beard guy. It's not who I am. Okay.
Seasonal beard guy's fine.
Seasonal beard guy, just like pumpkin spice. I named my beard pumpkin spice. Except it's gray. All right, that's it for this big game breakdown, picks and previews here on the Bill and Doug Show for Ohio State, Indiana. We will be in Indianapolis to cover this game on Saturday night. We anticipate that we will be doing a post-game show the moment the game ends, I think from the press box one way or the other. So if for some reason that blows up in our face and we can't do it from the press box, then it's going to be later. But we're also going to do a live show as soon as the playoff rankings come out on Sunday. So that's 2 reasons to be subscribed here on YouTube to the Bill and Doug Show to catch that stuff live, because obviously it's live on YouTube and then we put it up on the podcast feeds as quick as we can. But if you want to catch it live, post-game Saturday or post-playoff rankings announcement on Sunday, get subscribed to the YouTube feed. If you're listening on a podcast, thanks for being here. If you're watching back on YouTube, thanks for being here. Substack, BillandDougOSU.substack.com. And we'll be getting in the car on Friday, Bill. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun time in Indy. Great game.
It's crazy. We haven't been there. So, we were there, but not for an Ohio State game. So, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Very good. So, thanks to you guys for being here as always. For now, he's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was the Bill and Doug Show.